It is the most famous painting in the world, instantly recognizable by its enigmatic smile. But over a century ago, the Mona Lisa wasn't the global icon we know today. It took a heist, a daring theft in broad daylight, for this masterpiece to achieve its legendary status. This is the story of the Great Mona Lisa Heist. The year was 1911. The Mona Lisa, painted by the Italian genius Leonardo da Vinci, hung quietly in the Louvre Museum in Paris. At the time, it was admired, but not yet the cultural phenomenon it is today. That changed on the morning of August 21st, 1911, when visitors to the gallery noticed an empty space where the Mona Lisa once hung. The thief was Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian handyman who had previously worked at the Louvre. Disguised in a white smock, he blended in with the staff. Early on that Monday morning, Peruggia hid inside the museum overnight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He removed the Mona Lisa from its protective glass and frame, then tucked the small painting under his smock. Incredibly, Peruggia simply walked out of the museum unnoticed. The theft caused a media frenzy. How could the Louvre, one of the world's most secure museums, lose such a priceless artwork? Police scrambled to find leads, questioning employees and art collectors. At one point, even Pablo Picasso, then a rising artist in Paris, was considered a suspect. But weeks turned into months, and months into years. The Mona Lisa had seemingly vanished, leaving authorities baffled and the world stunned. 2 years later, in 1913, the mystery took a surprising turn. Peruggia, believing he was a patriot returning the Mona Lisa to her rightful home in Italy, contacted an art dealer in Florence. Claiming he wanted to sell the painting, Peruggia revealed his prized possession. Authorities were notified, and Peruggia was swiftly arrested. The Mona Lisa was safely returned to the Louvre, where it was greeted with celebrations. Peruggia claimed he had acted out of love for his homeland, though his motives remained debated. Strangely enough, the theft may have been the best thing to ever happen to the Mona Lisa. The global media coverage turned it into a sensation. People flocked to the Louvre just to see the painting that had been stolen and recovered. Today, it is the most visited, most photographed, and most talked about painting in history. The theft also highlighted the need for tighter security measures in museums around the world, shaping how we protect cultural treasures to this day. What started as a bold heist by a misguided patriot turned into a pivotal moment in art history. The Mona Lisa's mysterious smile now hides not only the secrets of Da Vinci's genius, but also the tale of a theft that forever changed its legacy. A gang of thieves that moves like ghosts, pulling off heists so audacious they leave police baffled. They've stolen over $500 million in dazzling treasures, striking from Dubai to Tokyo and everywhere in between. Their name? The Pink Panthers. But who are they? And how do they keep evading capture? Let's uncover the story of the world's most notorious jewel thieves. The story of the Pink Panthers begins in the Balkans, a region with a turbulent history and strong ties to organized crime. Many members are believed to be ex-military operatives, veterans of the Yugoslav wars. Their military training gave them skills in strategy, discipline, and precision, skills they would later use to plan and execute heists. But what makes them truly unique is their ability to operate as a network. The Pink Panthers aren't a single gang. They're a loosely connected web of skilled criminals, working independently or in small groups. This structure makes them incredibly difficult to track. Even when law enforcement catches one group, another pops up halfway across the globe. They earned their name in 2003 after a heist in London, where thieves hid a stolen diamond worth $650,000 inside a jar of face cream. The bizarre hiding spot reminded detectives of the famous Pink Panther films, and the name stuck. Over the years, the Pink Panthers have become infamous for their high-profile heists, each more daring than the last. Let's look at some of their most jaw-dropping operations. In 2007, they struck the luxurious Wafi Mall in Dubai. This wasn't a stealthy operation, it was a spectacle. Driving 2 stolen cars through the glass entrance, the thieves smashed their way into a high-end jewelry store. Within 60 seconds, they had stolen $3.4 million worth of diamonds and disappeared into the night. Security footage of the heist went viral, showcasing their speed and audacity. In Geneva, Switzerland, they pulled off a heist that left authorities stunned. Posing as wealthy clients, the thieves infiltrated a high-end jewelry store and made off with millions in gems. The heist was so meticulously planned that police could find no evidence left behind. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. One of their boldest heists occurred in Tokyo in 2004. Disguised as wealthy businessmen, the gang entered a jewelry store in broad daylight. In just 3 minutes, they stole $31 million worth of diamonds, including a rare 125-carat gem. Witnesses described the operation as a well-rehearsed play, with every move perfectly timed. These heists weren't just crimes, they were performances, and the Pink Panthers were the stars. What makes the Pink Panthers so successful? It all comes down to planning. Every heist is a masterpiece of strategy and execution. They scout their targets for weeks, sometimes months, studying every detail, the layout of the store, the security systems, and the response times of local police. Their methods are as creative as they are effective. In one heist, they used prosthetic masks to disguise their identities, fooling even high-definition cameras. In another, they caused a power outage to disable security systems, leaving the store completely vulnerable. And in almost every case, they vanish within minutes, leaving police with no leads. One hallmark of their operations is their refusal to use violence. Unlike many criminal gangs, the Pink Panthers rely on speed, precision, and deception rather than brute force. This has earned them a reputation as gentlemen thieves, though their actions are anything but harmless. Despite their skill, the Pink Panthers haven't escaped entirely unscathed. Interpol, the international police organization, launched Operation Pink Panther in 2007, a task force dedicated to tracking and capturing the gang. Over the years, authorities have arrested dozens of suspected members, with some receiving lengthy prison sentences. But the Pink Panthers are like a hydra. Cut off one head, and 2 more grow in its place. Their decentralized structure allows them to continue operating even when key members are captured. And because they work across multiple countries, navigating different legal systems, coordination between law enforcement agencies is a constant challenge. Some members have even escaped from prison in dramatic fashion. In 2013, 2 suspected Pink Panthers broke out of a Swiss prison using smuggled tools and a getaway car provided by accomplices. The escape was so well executed that authorities suspected it had been planned for months. Despite the arrests and investigations, the true extent of the Pink Panthers network remains a mystery. How many members are there? How do they communicate? And who is calling the shots? These questions continue to baffle authorities. Some believe the Pink Panthers are more than just criminals. They're a symbol of defiance, thumbing their noses at law enforcement and high society. Their heists aren't just about money, they're about making a statement. The Pink Panthers are more than just jewel thieves. They're a phenomenon. Their story is one of brilliance, audacity, and mystery. From Tokyo to Dubai, their legacy is written in diamonds and daring escapes. What do you think? Are the Pink Panthers criminal masterminds or legends in their own right? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more Crime Chronicles. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Imagine walking away with over $5 million in cash and jewels, all taken from right under the nose of security at one of the busiest airports in the world. This is the story of the Lufthansa heist, the biggest cash robbery in American history. A heist so daring that it would go down in history and forever change the landscape of airport security and organized crime. The year was 1978. New York City was gritty, crime-ridden, and to many, a breeding ground for organized crime. Amidst this environment stood JFK International Airport, a hub for international travel, and, as it turned out, a lucrative target for a certain group of criminals. Lufthansa, the German airline, regularly transported millions in cash from international flights, cash that was kept overnight at the airline's cargo terminal at JFK. This money was waiting to be transferred to its destinations, making it a prime target for anyone daring enough to take it. And there was one man who had the guts to make it happen: Jimmy Burke, a ruthless associate of the Lucchese crime family, a man known for his cunning, connections, and utter lack of mercy. To pull off a heist like this, Jimmy Burke needed a plan that would leave no trace and no witnesses. He gathered a team of men skilled in theft and intimidation, men who knew how to move silently and strike hard. But to make this heist possible, he needed more than muscle. He needed an insider. That insider was Louis Werner, a Lufthansa cargo agent who had racked up a serious gambling debt. Werner knew the routines, the security gaps, and most importantly, the exact location of the vault holding millions in cash and jewels. Under pressure from Burke and his team, Werner gave them all the information they needed. For weeks, they studied the layout, planned their entrance and exit, and rehearsed every detail. They knew exactly where each guard would be, when shifts would change, and how long they had before anyone would notice the heist. Burke's team was prepared to move in with precision and strike with speed. December 11th, 1978, midnight. Under the cover of darkness, Burke's team arrived at the Lufthansa cargo terminal at JFK Airport. Each man knew his role. They moved silently, their faces covered, carrying weapons and bags to hold the cash and jewels they were about to steal. They overpowered the first guard they encountered, forcing him at gunpoint to disable the security alarms. The guard complied, too afraid to resist. The team then moved deeper into the terminal, catching every guard off guard, binding and gagging them to prevent any interference. With security neutralized, they made their way to the vault. In less than an hour, they had loaded their bags with over $5 million in cash and nearly $1 million in jewels. They moved quickly and methodically, knowing that time was their enemy. By the time anyone realized what had happened, Burke's team was long gone, vanishing into the night with their haul. In just over an hour, they had pulled off the biggest cash heist in American history. The aftermath of the Lufthansa heist was explosive. The FBI launched an intense investigation, and the media erupted with speculation and fascination. Who could have orchestrated such a flawless heist at one of the most secure locations in the country? But Jimmy Burke had one rule: no loose ends. As rumors began circulating about who might have been involved, members of the heist team started disappearing one by one. Each man who had even a hint of involvement with the heist was eliminated, ensuring no one would talk to the FBI. As the body count rose, the FBI struggled to get leads, finding themselves up against a wall of silence and fear. Despite their efforts, they were never able to fully break the case, leaving much of the heist's mystery unsolved. The Lufthansa heist became legendary, inspiring countless stories, movies, and books. One of the most famous portrayals of the heist appeared in Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas, which immortalized Jimmy Burke's ruthlessness and the dark world of organized crime. But the heist didn't just leave a mark on popular culture. It had a lasting impact on airport security across the United States. The heist exposed massive flaws in the system, leading to tighter regulations and more stringent security measures for cargo and cash at airports nationwide. The Lufthansa heist remains one of the greatest mysteries in the history of American crime. A heist so bold, so meticulously planned, and so haunting that its shadows still linger today. Was it the perfect crime? Or simply a reminder of the lengths people will go to for greed and survival? If you're fascinated by daring crimes, stay tuned to Crime Chronicles for more legendary heists and the untold stories of those who risked it all. On a quiet, misty night in Boston, two men dressed as police officers strolled up to the doors of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Within minutes, these men would go on to orchestrate the largest unsolved art theft in history, stealing 13 priceless works of art. 30 years later, the mystery still haunts investigators, art lovers, and the museum itself. Isabella Stewart Gardner was no ordinary woman. Born into wealth, she had a keen eye for beauty and a passion for collecting art that reflected her unique and visionary taste. She founded the museum not only as a sanctuary for art, but also as a personal legacy, a place where beauty, culture, and history could blend. The collection included some of the most sought-after pieces in the world, like Rembrandt's only known seascape, Storm on the Sea of Galilee, and Vermeer's The Concert, one of only 34 known works by the Dutch master. Gardner's collection was an irreplaceable masterpiece of human creativity, reflecting diverse artists, cultures, and time periods. But Isabella wanted more than just art. She wanted her legacy to be preserved exactly as she had arranged it, so much so that her will decreed nothing could be altered. The result was a museum forever frozen in time. A quiet echo of Gardner's world, her vision, her passion. It was the early hours of March 18th, 1990. St. Patrick's Day celebrations had wrapped up, and the city was quiet. At around 1:24 a.m., two men dressed as police officers approached the museum's side entrance. They rang the buzzer, claiming they were responding to a disturbance. The guards on duty that night were young and inexperienced. Although museum policy stated they should have called the police, they decided to let the officers inside. The moment they did, the two men sprang into action. They handcuffed the guards, marched them to the basement, and duct taped their eyes and mouths shut, leaving them helpless. The thieves then moved through the museum with a chilling precision, cutting the paintings from their frames, and even smashing certain pieces to avoid the inconvenience of removing them whole. In total, they stole 13 pieces, valued at over $500 million. One of the stolen pieces, Manet's Chez Tortoni, was small enough to slip under a coat. The thieves seemed to understand both the museum's layout and the pieces themselves, taking works that would fetch the highest price on the black market. After spending 81 minutes inside, they vanished without a trace. When the museum staff arrived later that morning, the scene was devastating. Masterpieces were missing, and in their place were empty frames, a silent witness to the theft. The museum went into a state of shock and mourning. The FBI quickly launched an investigation, and the museum offered a reward of $10 million for information leading to the recovery of the art. But the investigation hit a wall almost immediately. Despite extensive interviews, the FBI had no significant leads. Media outlets covered the heist extensively, speculating on the culprits and potential motives. Was it an inside job? Or perhaps an international art syndicate at play? Theories swirled, but solid evidence was scarce. As months turned to years, various theories emerged. One prominent theory involved the Boston mob. It was believed that the heist could have been organized by organized crime figures with deep connections in the art underworld. Several notorious criminals were brought in for questioning, including the infamous mobster Carmine the Big Cheese Romano, but no one was ever charged. 13. Another theory speculated that the thieves were acting on commission for a private collector, someone wealthy enough to buy and hide the stolen art. According to this theory, the art could still be intact, concealed in a secret gallery or vault. But there's also a darker possibility that the art was destroyed to eliminate evidence. Some experts believe the pieces may have been burned or buried, forever lost to the world. 14. Despite the theories, the investigation has remained stagnant. The FBI continues to receive tips, and the museum holds out hope that the art will resurface. Yet, as each year passes, the chance of recovery seems to diminish. 15. To this day, the empty frames hang on the museum walls, a silent protest and a reminder of what was lost. They serve as a haunting tribute to the masterpieces that once graced those halls, and a mystery that captivates the imagination. 16. In 2021, the FBI renewed its appeal for information, with a staggering $10 million reward still on the table. They released an updated age progression of possible suspects, urging anyone with information to come forward. But the passage of time only deepens the mystery. Will the art ever resurface? Or has it become a permanent part of the shadows, forever out of reach? The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist has not only become an iconic unsolved crime, but also a reflection on the fragility of human history, beauty, and memory. In the world of art and crime, few mysteries remain as powerful as this one. The Gardner heist serves as a haunting reminder that beauty, once lost, may never return, and so the world waits, hoping that someday, somewhere, a piece of art will find its way back home. If you're fascinated by mysteries and true crime stories like this, be sure to subscribe to Crime Chronicles for more stories that dive into the heart of history's darkest heists and unsolved crimes. In the dimly lit streets of Boston, a group of men met under the cover of darkness, driven by ambition, desperation, and the thrill of an audacious plan. It was 1950, and they were about to attempt what would be known as the crime of the century, a robbery so bold and meticulously planned that it would baffle authorities for years to come. This was the Brinks job. The Brinks Armoured Car Depot was considered one of the most secure buildings in the country, holding millions in cash and valuables. But for a group of seasoned criminals, it represented the ultimate prize. Led by Tony Fats Pino, a career criminal with a genius for planning, they would go to extraordinary lengths to make sure every detail was flawless. The plan was set in motion years before the heist. For almost 2 years, Pino and his team studied the Brinks Depot, learning every security measure, every shift change, and every vulnerability. They observed guard routines, memorized building layouts, and even practiced breaking into locks with copies of the keys they'd secretly stolen. This heist wasn't going to be a quick job. It was a military-grade operation. Each man in the gang had a role, from lookout to vault specialist. They even had a rule to wear soft-soled shoes to muffle their steps and matching navy peacoats to avoid suspicion. On the frigid night of January 17th, 1950, the gang made their move. Entering the depot just as they had practiced countless times, they disabled alarms, restrained employees, and moved with precision and silence. Within minutes, they reached the vault, their prize just behind a few inches of steel. Inside, they found more than $2.7 million in cash, checks, and money orders, a fortune worth over $30 million today. They packed the loot into bags and slipped out of the depot, vanishing into the night as swiftly as they'd entered. When police arrived, they were baffled. No clues, no fingerprints, nothing but an empty vault. The Brinks job sent shockwaves through the nation, and the FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history. But despite the manpower and resources, they were met with dead ends. Tony Pino and his gang had covered their tracks meticulously, leaving no trace of their identities behind. The gang had even agreed on a pact of silence, knowing that a single word could spell doom for them all. For 6 years, the FBI couldn't touch them, and it seemed like they would actually get away with the crime of the century. As time passed, the gang members began to feel the weight of their secret. Paranoia, greed, and mistrust crept in. Some members wanted to spend their share, Others feared the FBI's relentless pursuit, and slowly, cracks began to show in their loyalty. Then, one of the gang members made a mistake, a critical error that would undo everything they'd worked so hard to achieve. Joseph Specs O'Keefe, desperate and frustrated, was arrested for an unrelated crime. Facing years in prison, he reached a breaking point. In a desperate bid to avoid jail time, O'Keefe began negotiating with the FBI. He confessed to his role in the Brinks job, providing details that the authorities had been searching for. With his confession, the FBI finally had the evidence they needed to bring down the gang. One by one, the gang members were rounded up, their dreams of untouchable wealth shattered. Pino, the mastermind, and the rest of his team were brought to justice. It was the end of an era, a reminder that even the most brilliant plans can be undone by human weakness. The Brinks job remains one of the most legendary heists in American history, a story of ambition, precision, and betrayal. Though the gang nearly succeeded, they learned a hard lesson. In the world of crime, there's no honor among thieves. Today, the Brinks job is remembered not only for its audacity, but for its tragic ending, a testament to the high price of greed. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Crime Chronicles for more daring tales of deception and betrayal. And remember, sometimes the perfect crime is only an illusion. Imagine millions of dollars vanishing in broad daylight, right under the city's nose. A crime so bold it stunned the nation. Today, we're diving into the Brinks armored truck heist, a heist that went down in history as one of New York's most daring and meticulously planned cash thefts. Join us as we unravel how a small group of criminals executed an operation that, for a time, seemed flawless. The year was 1981. A time of heightened tension across New York City. Crime was at an all-time high, and armored vehicles carrying massive amounts of cash became prime targets for criminals who dared to dream big. Brinks, a company known for its high security protocols, was trusted to transport millions daily. But on October 20th, that trust would be shattered in a matter of minutes. The target was a Brinks truck parked outside the Nanuet Mall in Rockland County, New York. Inside this steel fortress were bags filled with millions in cash, jewels, and other valuables, guarded by armed personnel. But little did they know that they were being watched by a group willing to take on an armored convoy in broad daylight. Behind the heist was an unusual alliance of ex-convicts, political radicals, and individuals with deep roots in organized crime. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. They meticulously studied the routes, the timing, and even the habits of the Brinks security team. The heist's mastermind was David Gilbert, a radical with connections to militant groups. His team, the Weather Underground and Black Liberation Army, wanted more than just money. They sought to fund a cause, hoping that this heist would provide the resources to push forward their political agenda. To ensure success, they went through months of intense planning. They secured vehicles, weapons, and disguises, all while keeping their operation as covert as possible. They also identified a weak point in the Brinks team's routine, when the guards would briefly leave the truck's side to load or unload goods, leaving it vulnerable. On the morning of October 20th, the heist was set in motion. The team lay in wait, armed and ready. When the Brinks truck arrived at the Nanuet Mall, the guards stepped out as usual, thinking they were just performing another routine drop. That's when the assailants struck. In a matter of seconds, gunfire erupted. They moved swiftly, overpowering the guards and loading the bags of cash into their getaway vehicle. But the chaos didn't stop there. As they attempted to flee the scene, a police officer caught wind of the commotion. A high-speed chase ensued, with gunfire exchanged between the suspects and pursuing officers. The getaway was tense, chaotic, and marked by moments of sheer terror. In the end, the robbers managed to slip away, leaving the Brinks guards shaken and the authorities baffled. The immediate aftermath was one of confusion and panic. With 2 guards killed and several police officers injured, the Brinks heist became a nationwide priority. Law enforcement agencies threw all available resources into tracking down the suspects. Investigators combed through evidence, eyewitness testimonies, and security footage, piecing together clues that eventually led to the robbers' hideouts. For months, the search continued. As tensions grew, tips from informants and surveillance eventually led authorities to a safe house where some of the culprits were hiding. Gilbert and several of his accomplices were apprehended, facing charges that would see them behind bars for decades. Others managed to escape, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and mystery. The Brinks armored truck heist didn't just shake the city. It changed the landscape of armored truck security across the nation. Brinks and other companies introduced stricter protocols, advanced security systems, and required new levels of training for guards. But more than that, the heist became a symbol of audacity. It was a crime that inspired books, documentaries, and even movies, cementing its place in the Hall of Infamous Heists. Could there be other heists, just as daring, hiding in plain sight? As history shows, every locked door, every armored truck, has the potential to become a target in the minds of those bold enough to challenge the system. Stay tuned, because who knows what hidden stories we'll uncover next. Fortaleza, Brazil, 2005. In the bustling streets of this vibrant city, few suspected that beneath their feet, a criminal operation of unparalleled ambition was taking shape. Over months of meticulous planning, a gang of thieves was digging their way into history. Their target? The Banco Central Vault, holding millions in untraceable currency. What unfolded would become one of the most elaborate heists the world has ever seen. This is the story of the Banco Central burglary, a saga of audacity, precision, and enduring mystery. Every great heist begins with a master plan, and the Banco Central burglary was no exception. It started when the gang rented a modest property near the bank under the guise of operating a landscaping business. To the outside world, they were hard-working gardeners. But beneath the surface, literally, they were digging toward the vault of one of Brazil's most secure banks. The scale of their operation was staggering. The gang's tunnel stretched 256 feet, equipped with lighting, ventilation, and reinforced walls to prevent collapse. This wasn't the work of amateurs. It required advanced engineering knowledge and months of painstaking labor. Over 4 tons of earth were removed by hand, loaded into trucks, and quietly disposed of, all while avoiding detection. The sheer audacity of digging a tunnel in plain sight showed their confidence and expertise. On the weekend of August 6, 2005, the bank closed as usual, and Fortaleza settled into a quiet weekend. The gang knew they had a limited window to execute their plan. After months of digging, they finally breached the 1.1 meter thick steel-reinforced floor of the Banco Central Vault. Inside lay their prize, 160 million Brazilian reais, equivalent to over $70 million at the time. The money was stored in unregistered bills, meaning it was virtually untraceable. The gang worked efficiently, loading sack after sack of cash through their tunnel and disappearing into the night. By the time bank employees returned on Monday morning, the vault was empty and the thieves were gone without a trace. The discovery of the heist sent shockwaves through Brazil and the world. The sheer scale and ingenuity of the operation captured headlines, while the authorities scrambled to respond. A massive investigation was launched, involving local police, federal agencies, and Interpol. The crime scene itself offered few clues. The gang had left no fingerprints, no DNA, and no alarms had been triggered. Forensic experts were left baffled by the level of sophistication. However, As is often the case with such grand schemes, the criminals' downfall was their greed and carelessness. Dividing such an enormous sum of money created internal tensions, and the spending habits of certain gang members began to raise suspicions. Within weeks, arrests were made, and some of the money was recovered. Yet the majority of the loot, over $30 million, remains missing to this day. The aftermath of the Banco Central burglary was as dramatic as the heist itself. Members of the gang began to turn on each other, and violence erupted within their ranks. At least 8 individuals connected to the heist were murdered, either by rivals or as part of an effort to silence potential informants. One suspect, thought to be a key figure in the operation, was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Meanwhile, the arrests of other gang members revealed a web of accomplices, including individuals with expertise in tunneling, banking, and logistics. The heist had involved far more people than initially believed, making it one of the most intricate criminal enterprises ever uncovered. The Banco Central burglary had a profound impact not only on Brazil, but also on the global perception of organized crime. The heist exposed weaknesses in banking security and inspired similar tunnel-based operations worldwide. Forensic experts and criminologists have studied the case extensively, using it as a benchmark for understanding the psychology and logistics of large-scale heists. Hollywood and the media were quick to capitalize on the drama of the story. Documentaries, films, and books have explored the heist in detail, cementing its place in popular culture. Yet, the most enduring aspect of the crime is the mystery that surrounds it. Despite the arrests and recoveries, many questions remain unanswered. Where is the missing money? How did the gang evade detection for so long? And who was the true mastermind behind the operation? Some believe the heist was far more sophisticated than initially reported, involving corrupt officials or hidden collaborators who have never been brought to justice. The Banco Central burglary was more than just a crime. It was a statement of human ingenuity and greed. It revealed the lengths to which people will go in pursuit of fortune and the cost of such ambition. Over 15 years later, the heist remains a symbol of mystery, audacity, and the enduring allure of the perfect crime. When you think of high-stakes heists, you probably imagine stolen diamonds, priceless art, or mountains of cash. But in 2011, Canada witnessed a theft so unusual, it left the world both baffled and impressed. The target wasn't jewels or money, it was maple syrup. Yes, maple syrup, one of Canada's most cherished and lucrative exports. This wasn't a small-time operation either. The thieves made off with $18 million worth of liquid gold in what became one of the most audacious and peculiar heists in history. But how did it happen? And why was maple syrup worth so much? Let's uncover the sticky details behind the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. Maple syrup isn't just a breakfast topping, it's a cultural symbol and a booming industry. Globally, maple syrup generates hundreds of millions of dollars annually, with Quebec producing more than 70% of the world's supply. The Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, or FPAQ, acts as a regulatory body, setting prices and maintaining a strategic reserve of syrup, a concept often compared to how oil reserves are managed. This reserve, stored in warehouses across Quebec, holds thousands of barrels of syrup, ready to stabilize the market in case of a poor harvest or sudden demand surge. Each barrel contains roughly 54 gallons of syrup, worth about $1,800 at market value. And while it may seem odd, this sticky, sweet liquid has become so valuable that it's often referred to as liquid gold. To thieves, it represented the perfect score. The story begins in 2011, when a group of thieves set their sights on a warehouse in Saint Louis de Blandford, Quebec. This facility housed part of the FPAQ's strategic reserve, thousands of barrels of maple syrup stacked and seemingly secure. But the thieves had a plan. Over several months, they carefully siphoned syrup from the barrels, replacing it with water to avoid detection. The operation was meticulously organized. Using rented trucks, they transported the stolen syrup to other locations, where it was sold on the black market to distributors and buyers willing to turn a blind eye to its origins. By the time they were done, they had stolen nearly 3,000 tons of syrup, enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The sheer scale of the operation left authorities stunned. The theft wasn't discovered until 2012, during a routine inventory check. An inspector climbing the stacks of barrels noticed something odd. One of the barrels felt unusually light. Upon closer inspection, he found it was filled with water, not syrup. Panic set in as investigators realized this wasn't an isolated incident. Entire rows of barrels had been emptied and refilled with water. When the final tally came in, the theft amounted to $18 million worth of syrup. To put that in perspective, it was over 10% of Quebec's annual syrup production. The heist shook the industry to its core, sparking outrage and disbelief. How could such a massive theft go unnoticed for so long? The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, launched an intensive investigation, dubbed Operation Sugar Shack. They uncovered a sophisticated network of criminals that included warehouse workers, truck drivers, and distributors. The thieves had exploited weak security measures and taken advantage of insider knowledge to carry out their plan. One key figure in the heist was Richard Vallières, a businessman who orchestrated the operation and sold the stolen syrup on the black market. Vallières and his accomplices were eventually caught and brought to trial. In 2016, he was convicted of theft, fraud, and trafficking stolen goods. He was ordered to pay over $10 million in fines and sentenced to 8 years in prison. The investigation also exposed a surprising black market for maple syrup, revealing just how valuable this commodity had become. Buyers as far away as the United States were implicated, further highlighting the international reach of the crime. The heist had lasting repercussions for the maple syrup industry. The FPAQ implemented stricter security measures at its warehouses, including surveillance cameras, alarm systems, and regular inspections. The case also brought attention to the high stakes of the syrup trade, solidifying its reputation as a surprisingly cutthroat industry. For the thieves, the heist was ultimately a sticky failure, but for the public, it became a story of fascination. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist has since been featured in documentaries, books, and even Netflix's series Dirty Money. It's a reminder that even the sweetest crimes can leave a bitter aftertaste. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist is more than just a quirky tale. It's a testament to human ingenuity, greed, and the unexpected value of something as simple as syrup. While the thieves may have failed to get away with their crime, their story continues to captivate the world. So the next time you drizzle maple syrup on your pancakes, remember, it's not just breakfast, it's liquid gold. In the summer of 2005, a modest house in the Brazilian city of Fortaleza became the center of an extraordinary plot. To neighbors, the men who rented the property appeared to be landscapers running a small business named Grama Sintética, Portuguese for synthetic grass. The reality was far more sinister. For 3 months, this group of thieves meticulously planned and executed one of the most daring heists in history. Their target, the Banco Central's vault, housing millions in untraceable cash. The operation began with a feat of engineering rarely seen in the world of crime. From the rented house, the gang dug a tunnel stretching 78 meters, nearly the length of a football field, directly under 2 city blocks to the bank's reinforced vault. The tunnel was a masterpiece of planning and construction, complete with wooden supports, plastic lining to prevent soil collapse, electric lights, and even a ventilation system to ensure the robbers could work underground for hours at a time. The precision and sophistication of this tunnel rivaled those used in professional mining operations. Despite the scale of their work, the gang managed to stay under the radar. The house, used as their base, had its windows covered to hide the activity inside. Trucks regularly came and went, removing soil from the excavation, but they raised little suspicion. To onlookers, the operation appeared legitimate, a testament to the gang's meticulous planning and ability to blend in. What no one knew was that each shovel of dirt brought them closer to one of the biggest bank robberies in history. The breakthrough came on the weekend of August 6, 2005, when the gang finally breached the vault of the Banco Central. Timing was critical. Banks are closed on weekends, giving the thieves uninterrupted access. Inside the vault, the robbers encountered an astonishing sight: stacks upon stacks of Brazilian reais, totaling 160 million. They worked quickly but carefully, selecting only non-sequential bills to avoid detection. Over the course of the weekend, they transported the money through the tunnel back to their hideout, using makeshift carts to speed up the process. When bank employees returned on Monday morning, they were met with chaos. The vault had been ransacked, yet there were no signs of forced entry from above ground. Investigators soon discovered the tunnel leading to the rented house, and what they found there was nothing short of shocking. The house was abandoned, littered with tools, dirt, and evidence of the elaborate operation. Yet, despite the clues left behind, the thieves themselves had vanished. The robbery sent shockwaves across Brazil, prompting one of the largest investigations in the country's history. Police initially believed they were dealing with a small group of local criminals, but the scope of the heist suggested otherwise. Over time, it became clear that this was the work of a highly organized gang with connections to Brazil's criminal underworld. Dozens of suspects were identified and several were arrested, but the trail soon grew cold. Most of the money, over 90%, remained missing, sparking rumors about where it had gone. As the investigation progressed, a darker side of the heist emerged. Members of the gang began turning on one another, either out of greed or fear of being caught. At least 8 people connected to the robbery were killed in the years that followed, including key suspects who might have revealed the gang's secrets. These murders added another layer of mystery to the case, as authorities struggled to determine whether the killings were revenge, silencing, or simple paranoia among the thieves. The Banco Central heist also exposed significant flaws in Brazil's banking security. For all its reinforced walls and advanced systems, the bank had been completely bypassed by criminals who exploited weaknesses below ground. In response, banks across the country increased their security measures, particularly against tunneling threats. Yet, despite these changes, the heist remains a symbol of how ingenuity and determination can overcome even the most robust defenses. The legacy of the Banco Central robbery is as much about what remains unknown as what has been uncovered. The mastermind behind the plot was never definitively identified, though several suspects were considered. The fate of the missing millions also remains a point of fascination. Some believe the money was laundered through Brazil's black market, while others think it was hidden abroad. To this day, investigators and amateur sleuths alike continue to speculate about where the cash might be and who might still be living off its spoils. This heist is not just a tale of theft, but a study in human ambition and the lengths people will go to achieve their goals. From the meticulous planning to the bitter betrayals that followed, the Banco Central robbery is a story of brilliance and hubris in equal measure. Even nearly 2 decades later, it continues to captivate imaginations, a reminder of how even the most secure systems can be outwitted by those willing to take extraordinary risks. The thieves may have vanished, but their story lives on, cementing their place in the annals of criminal history. In the dead of night, February 2003, Antwerp, Belgium, the heart of the diamond trade. A group of thieves was about to pull off the unthinkable, a heist that would go down as one of the most legendary robberies in modern history. Over $100 million in diamonds, gold and jewels vanished from one of the most secure vaults in the world. But how did they do it? How did these masterminds penetrate layers of world-class security to pull off what seemed impossible? Antwerp, Belgium, known worldwide as the Diamond Capital. Every year, billions in precious stones flow through the city's heavily guarded diamond district. At the heart of this district is the Antwerp Diamond Centre, boasting one of the world's most secure vaults. Its defences were legendary, 10 layers of security, each one designed to be impenetrable. This vault was protected by heat sensors, motion detectors, magnetic fields, and a lock with over 100 million possible combinations. Breaking into it was supposed to be impossible, but for Leonardo Notarbartolo, this vault wasn't just a fortress, it was a challenge. Leonardo Notarbartolo, an Italian career thief, was a man with a passion for high-stakes crime, known for his skill, precision, and a lifetime in the underworld. Notarbartolo was no stranger to elaborate schemes, but even he knew this job was too big to pull off alone. He assembled a hand-picked team, each a master in their field. The Monster, a powerful figure with an uncanny ability to dismantle alarms. The Genius, a technical wizard who could disable complex systems with ease. And the King of Keys, a locksmith so skilled he could duplicate any key by sight alone. This wasn't just a heist, it was a mission, a puzzle that would require every ounce of their skill, precision, and patience. For nearly 2 years they prepared, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Notarbartolo's cover was flawless. He posed as a diamond merchant renting an office in the diamond center itself. This gave him unrestricted access to the building and allowed him to blend seamlessly into the world of diamond traders. Over time, he studied every detail: the vault layout, security routines, and blind spots. He noted when guards took breaks, where the cameras pointed, and even how often the vault was accessed. Nothing was left to chance. The team trained endlessly, each step practiced down to the millisecond. They knew that in the real heist, even a single mistake could trigger the alarms and end everything in seconds. After years of preparation and meticulous planning, the moment had arrived. Their blueprint was flawless, their skills razor sharp. It was time to make history. Under cover of night, Notarbartolo and his team slipped into the Diamond Center, making their way down to the vault. The plan was as silent as it was precise. One by one, they neutralized each layer of security: heat sensors, motion detectors, even the magnetic field that protected the vault door. Each one was carefully dismantled or disabled, leaving no trace. Inside the vault, they worked quickly but cautiously, emptying safe deposit boxes filled with diamonds, gold, and jewels worth over $100 million. Hours passed, but the team's focus remained absolute. By the time they were done, the vault was stripped bare, and as dawn approached, they made their exit, leaving behind no sign of forced entry, no alarms, nothing. They believed they had committed the perfect crime, a silent operation, perfectly executed, and their getaway seemed seamless. But fate had other plans. During their escape, one of the crew members made a simple but devastating mistake. A bag of evidence hastily discarded lay near the scene. Inside, police would find crucial clues that would lead them straight to the gang. Within days, the police found the bag. Receipts, DNA traces and fibers linked it directly to Notarbartolo and his team. The so-called perfect crime was beginning to unravel. Notarbartolo was arrested, yet he refused to reveal his accomplices or the location of the stolen gems. The diamonds remained hidden, adding to the allure and mystery of this audacious crime. The Antwerp diamond heist was not just a theft, it was a story that captivated the world. Despite the arrests, the diamonds themselves remain lost, fueling countless theories. Were they sold on the black market? Hidden away, waiting to resurface? Or had they been destroyed to erase all traces? To this day, the heist is shrouded in mystery, and although Notarbartolo remains silent, the legacy of the Antwerp diamond heist endures, a testament to audacity, intelligence, and the unrelenting lure of riches. The Antwerp diamond heist, a crime for the ages, an unsolved mystery that has intrigued millions. Want to hear more stories of daring robberies and criminal masterminds? Subscribe to Crime Chronicles and join us every week for tales of real-life mystery and intrigue.